Welcome. Today we're going to discuss market research. This will be a brief introduction to market research. When it comes to marketing research, always remember GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. A very good quote from Dr. Madhav Sehgal, because research is all about the questions you ask and the information you gather so that what you come out with is valuable to make decisions in the future. So what is market research? It's the process of gathering, analyzing, and interpreting information about a market or about a segment of the market that you're trying to reach to sell a product or service. Market research can identify new customers, helps you understand the size and nature of markets. It can improve the understanding of current customers, can help set achievable goals and targets. It can also formulate strategies, develop solutions to business problems, can help plan you for growth, for business growth, and also identify new opportunities. While good research can assist you greatly, poor or inaccurate research can lead to bad marketing decisions. So it is critically important to plan and undertake your research as effectively as possible. Very briefly, this is the market research process. Firstly, you identify and define the problem. Then you go and once you get that information, you design and plan your research, analyze the data and the information, and then finally prepare a report, or at least bring all the findings together and then decide what direction you're going to take next. So let's look at identifying and defining the problem. So prior to carrying out your research, it's really best to gain an understanding of what your objectives are. So for example, if I'm looking to go into a particular market, maybe a particular city, I can do what we call secondary data, which we'll discuss in a bit. And I can maybe go to the Australian Bureau of Statistics or any other census information and find out what is the population of that city, what's the makeup of it, is it more male, more female, what are the age groups, what are the key industries, how much are people making, etc. So there, with the internet, there's so much data out there that we can collect that before we enter a new market, we can definitely find that information of whether it's worthwhile to go to that market or not. If I already have existing members, I can start asking questions. And so all this comes back to what questions do I want to ask? What problem am I having? If I'm not selling a certain amount of product in an area, like I stated earlier, I may want to expand into another region. And therefore, I need to find out about that region before I expand into it. I mentioned secondary research. So there's two terms you'll hear: primary research and secondary research. Primary research is research that I'm actually doing. So for example, as I said, if I already have a list, so I have like a database of people, and I am actually the one going out and doing the research, or I'm doing the survey and collecting that material. I might be going to a mall and asking people to complete a survey. That's primary research. Secondary research, as stated earlier, is I might go to the Australian Bureau of Statistics website, which is abs.gov.au, and do a search on the research they have from previous census data or whatever, and be able to extract that information to use it for my own research in order to come up with answers to questions that I have. So primary research, I've done it, or in this case, you've done it, and secondary research, some other third party has done that research. And some of the ways I can collect this data and information is through online surveys, which is very easy. There's many online platforms today that you can do free and that you can use for free, such as SurveyMonkey. There's a few others out there. Telephone and in-home personal interviews, so telephone calling, various questionnaires, and then, as I said, the ABS, the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Any white papers will have may have some data professional associations. Just searching the web, you'll find a lot of that information. What you have to be aware of when you're using third-party information or secondary research is noticing who has done the research, what's the sample size, when did they do it. You might be using research, you might be using data, but it may be outdated and therefore irrelevant. If you're doing anything in the technology space, technology is happening so rapidly, it's very important to look for the most recent data. Because if you look at data, say that's 10 years old, it may not be relevant today. As I said, it's important to consider the type of data and information required to match the best possible collection techniques for each requirement. When we analyze the data and the information, we want to organize the information and interpret it in accordance with your research objectives to draw that conclusion. That's why it's very important at the very beginning to come up with very clear objectives. Why are you doing this research? What do you want to find out? And then define what choices you have available as the next steps. And the key to market research success is a systematic approach and the completion of each step before the next starts. And as I said earlier, it's just so important to make sure that you have the research objectives very, very clear. Going back to that quote, garbage in, garbage out. So if I don't know exactly what I want to collect, everything from then on will probably be very vague, or at the end, I won't have the information that I originally sought. When you use this market research, you want to feed the information into the formulation of your marketing strategy. So once you get the results, you go, okay, well now this is, I now know that the market I want to go into is a mainly older market, primarily female, and they're in the income bracket of $60,000 to $70,000 people, or $60,000 to $70,000. Then you have to make the decision if that meets your objectives of the product or service that you want to target, or if it even meets their needs, most importantly. So it's important to remember that if the outcomes of the research activities are not sufficient to make a decision, you may need to conduct further research as required. You may need to prepare a report. This might be for your board, maybe your team leader, your manager, your CEO. You want to always compile your research outcomes into a report with recommendations for further actions. It's no point doing the research and then not stating, well, where are we going to go with this? By preparing the information into a structured report, it will help you to ensure that your information is credible and justifiable. And one other thing, when you're doing these reports, don't just use all text. Pictures say 1,000 words. So if you can put the information into pie charts or graphs or anything that demonstrates in like a figure type of template becomes important. People don't want to read a lot of words. They want to get to the point, they can see it, and then you say, here's the recommendations and here's where I think we should go. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you later on in another session.